The Nephilim sightings are going to start soon.
Consciousness has been enslaved.
Your consciousness does not need your physical body to survive.
It's the thing that's necessary. It has to be there. It's the coding that projects this world we currently live in.
He said, I want you to read the Bible.
We got reptilians on just outside of our frequency zone.
Six-dimensional beings, the ancient builder race.
Ideas are the highest form of intelligence, and that leads you to truth and clarity.
The Nephilim sightings are going to start soon.
Conspiracy show?
There's obviously aliens. Our galaxy is insanely huge. We're just one planet.
They would have needed a minimum of 6 feet of lead shielding in order to get through the 25,000-mile thick Van Allen radiation belt.
This is real. They really did fake the moon landing.
The world is infinitely older than that. And I mean the world with human beings in it.
Skull and Bones is like one of the villains in the Legion of Doom.
He said, I want you to read the Bible.
The biblical flood, the Tartaria mud flood.
Conspiracy and chill.
The Nephilim sightings are going to start soon.
The bull god ball.
He said, I want you to read the Bible. There's magnets in the basketballs.
There was a political party, a third party called the Anti-Masonic Party at a point in the United States.
The Global Pandemic Treaty.
Conspiracy and Chill podcast.
We've got a long sought after guest, and I want to thank him for opening the doors to his gym earlier this year and teaching me and letting me train at his gym. It was one of the best experiences I've had.
That was a
Thank
great
you for
time.
coming on the show. Erik Paulson, a legend.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Of course, and you just got back from probably the biggest grappling event in history, arguably, where your student won the $1 million prize. What was that like? Congrats. By the way.
It was weird. I got back and I didn't even really realize because it was so crazy. I had cornered 6 matches. Each match is 3 5-minute rounds. Allie was 5 5-minute rounds. And Ty, in his second match versus Levi, he had a leg entanglement and he tore out of it. He tried to pull and twist, and I think Levi kept holding his heel, so he torqued his own knee. And halfway through the match, Cade goes, he's hurt. And obviously Cade and Ty, they're mirror twins, so they know each other so well. And he looked at him and he just said, yeah, this is an uphill battle right now. I mean, just will and grit right now is going to get him through it. And unfortunately, he lost. He lost to Levi. And then in the grand finale, after the most unbelievable match with Tackett. Oh my gosh.
That was crazy.
Wow. Yeah. And that after that, he had a little bit of a break, and then he was back out for the grand finale. And that was a 5 5-minute round. It was kind of lackluster because Levi kept sitting on his butt. But
and how could you follow up that other match?
Yeah. And he said, they said, why don't you stand up and grapple? He goes, well, if I'm winning this way, why don't I just continue to do what I'm doing? And, we were just talking about it. There needs to be some sort of rule of engagement that you just can't just sit on your ass and start scooting in, I think you should be required to engage in some sort of takedown somehow, or even if you just tie them up and pull them on your guard, something like that,
Do you
and
think
that
the
was
solution could be the pin? Is
what's
catch
that?
wrestling the solution? The pin?
That could be. Yeah, the pin could, that would change the entire game because none of the guys practice that unless they come from a wrestling background. So I would like to see more of these high-level jiu-jitsu guys start going into catch wrestling tournaments and seeing if they'll just submit everybody or if they'll get pinned, just to learn that aspect.
Definitely what I'm trying to promote too. I want to see the same thing.
Yeah, so it's like at our gym we primarily work submission wrestling and jiu-jitsu. We don't practice the pins so much until the tournament's coming up, and then I'll have 5 specialists come in and teach their favorite way to pin somebody, and then we work for the pin. But other than that, yeah, we don't really address the pins so much. I know in the old days, the It used to be called. They used to be called punishment holds, and you know what they were used for? They were used for the wrestlers that were stalling. They put a punishment hold on them to get them to move. They would torque them in order to get them on their back and to submit them. So that was the submissions were used more so just to punish them for stalling and then also to move them, kazushi them into a position so they could get pinned. Interesting, right?
For sure. And you're involved in just about every martial art I could think of. A question I definitely wanted to ask you, even though it's probably a hard one for you. What do you think is your favorite that you've trained or practiced? Excluding mixed martial arts or systems that kind of include everything. Like, what would be your favorite?
Well, I like Shudo. I like Shudo because it's a complete art. It's punching, kicking, throwing, ground and pound, and submission. And it was the predecessor before the UFC. I mean, they were established in 1984. And Sensei Nakamura was a champion back then, 85, I think, 84, 85. And then he came over to America and started teaching it in 1987. And then in 1988, he had his first seminar to introduce it to the public. And I was on my way to the Jet Center, and I did a private lesson with Benny the Jet. And then when I left there, I drove by the Inosanto Academy before I went back to Palm Desert where I lived. And I said, I wonder what's going on at the Inosanto Academy. So I drove by and I saw this poster with Sensei Yuri doing punching, kicking, and then grabbing a guy and then suplexing him and then submitting him. I go, man, that looks interesting. And it was punch, kick, salto, submit. And I took the first seminar with him in 1988, but I started jiu-jitsu in 1986 when I was training JKD in Tim Tackett's garage in Redlands. I was teaching Taekwondo and boxing. And then I would drive to Redlands on Wednesday night for the Wednesday night JKD group. And it was Tackett, Tim Tackett, Mr. Tackett, Sifu, that said, hey, there's a new martial art in town. Have you heard of these guys? They're from Brazil and they have an open challenge. They'll fight anybody to prove that their art is the strongest and the best. And this is in 86. And they said, hey, we're all going to pitch in and we're going to buy you a private lesson to see what it's like. And so I took a private with Horian, and I didn't know what was going to happen, but it was pretty much just like, okay, if I had grabbed you like this, and he grabbed my lapel and he said, what would you do right here? And I go, what would I do? And he goes, yeah. So I guntinged him. I hit his bicep. I go bang, bang. And then I jabbed him like 3 times. Simulation, obviously. And he goes, okay, that's tough. That's mean. But let's say I don't need my eyes to fight. And I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, what if I told you if I just put my hands on you, I could beat you without having any vision whatsoever? And I was like, wow. So then he took me down and submitted me just to prove the point. And it was just interesting. And he was just like, okay, but let's say I'm tough. And I was like, well, still a finger in the eye. That's not, you could be as tough as a nail. A grain of sand in your eye messes you up, let alone a finger, right? So that was my first lesson. And so it was actually very intriguing the way he presented the private lesson. And then we got to do some ground techniques, and then he let me put a submission on him, and he said, okay, I must stop. You're already learning the art. And he goes, I can't wait to see you next time. And then he gave me a hug, and I left, and I go, wow, that was amazing. Nobody's ever trained me like that. And then gave me a hug. I was like, that's crazy. So I immediately fell in love with it, and I went back and started going regularly. And that was 1986 and 87, 88. And then in about 89, well, let's see. So 88 is when I took the Shudo seminar, and Yuri. So I was already training with Hickson because I took a private with Hickson, and I was training with Hoyce. And then Hoyce said, hey, you got to make a choice. Hoyce said, you got to make a choice. He said, it's either me or my brother. And I said, he said, you can only play on one football team at once. And I go, how about Team Gracie? And he goes, no, we're separate. So you're either with him or me. And I said, well, I want to fight someday. And I really want to roll as much as I can. So I want more ground stuff, not just self-defense stuff. And he said, well, then maybe my brother would be better for you because that's all he teaches. He doesn't teach self-defense. So I took a prior with Hickson, and then that's when I changed over. But, I learned all the self-defense from Hoist. And it's funny because a lot of guys never learn today they learn sport jiu-jitsu, but they never learned the self-defense system. And I still think it was really good and relevant. It's good to teach a normal person, especially the way things are going today, right?
No doubt.
Especially in Chicago, right?
Right now, as we speak.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, they didn't teach us how to dodge bullets, but the self-defense hand-to-hand aspect is really good. So I like that.
Sword and shield days.
Yeah. Well, that's what's happening in England, right?
Stabbing.
Because they don't have guns.
I'd rather be shot. Yeah, please.
You saw like what was happening up in where Chris Crossan's at in that area. These guys are all taken to the streets, and everyone was scared for their lives. And then what happened? Apparently, it was mostly the Muslims. And then what happened is a lot of the Brits got together, like a lot of the homies, and apparently, what Chris said is a lot of the skinheads came out of the woodwork.
Wow.
Yeah, the full-blown white supremacists, and they were going pub to pub looking for these guys and knocking on doors where they knew there were Muslim families.
That's madness.
Yeah, and it was getting like, because they were surprised at this. It was like a surprise attack where all the Muslims showed up, which was a lot in the park, and they just started, attacking everybody.
That's exactly what they wanted, right? In my opinion.
Yeah. A couple stabbings. Well, separation is the biggest thing.
Exactly. More and more division.
Yep.
Yeah. It's the worst thing ever. Ultimately, if there was a horrible earthquake or a volcano erupted, it wouldn't matter what color, race, or creed you were, because people would be looking out for other human beings or life, animals, whatever. So you wouldn't care. It's just, I don't know. It's a polarization of all the whether it's religion or politics. That's the other thing too. Like I have friends that are opposite ends of the political thought pattern than I am. They're still my friends, but it's really hard to have a valid discussion with them because they get pissed off, they get angry, and you can't really talk about it, or they say it's all bullshit or it's all conspiracy bullshit. And I told them, I said, listen, the biggest thing you guys need to know is in 2025, there's going to be a shortage of conspiracies. You guys know that, right? Because they all came true. They're all coming true. And so I kind of got pigeonholed and put in the category. One of my friends from Canada said that he's put me in the category of Joe Rogan and Eddie Bravo. and then another guy, when Half Gracie punched his teeth out, or kicked his teeth out, Flavio Alamera, because he said, hey, this is my territory. No Gracie Bajas around my gym. And they're like, okay, good. We understand that. And then all of a sudden they just opened right by his gym. So that was something that had been said. So he went back to the old days and said, hey, you didn't honor your words. And instead of business, he's like, first of all, you didn't honor your words. So here's a 5-piece combo and a couple boots to the teeth. And so he got in trouble for that. But then this guy goes, man, he was crazy. And then this other guy goes, Eddie Bravo's crazy. It was just on a thread out of nowhere. They were talking about Half kicking Flavio's teeth in, and then all of a sudden, then they were talking that they threw Eddie in there, that he was crazy. And then this guy, I think it was one of Eddie's guys, go, well, Erik Paulson's batshit crazy. And I was like, what? How did I get thrown into this? I had nothing to do with any of it.
Well, this is exactly where I was hoping to steer this episode, Eric. And
Man,
we certainly don't think you're crazy, but being considered crazy by others is a compliment in this community.
yeah,
So,
well,
now why you did get thrown in there? What was the original thing that people were like, "Oh, Eric's crazy"? And I know, and especially
Well-
after going to your gym, the spiritual side of martial arts, is that something that was always with you from the beginning? Because not a lot of people care about that.
I know. Yeah. For me, when I was a little kid, I already knew about God. When I was little, my mom spanked me and I barely talked, and I go, "God's watching you." And she's like, "What the hell? You're hardly 2 years old. You know, I didn't even know you could talk." But it was just weird. I just thought about that today. I've always known, I've always felt his presence, which is all around us, all knowing, all seeing. One time when I was going through a divorce, I woke up in the middle of the morning at 4 a.m. and there was a 4-foot eye above my head. I looked left, it looked left. I looked right, it looked right. I blinked, it blinked. And I was like, how is there a 4-foot eye? It was like a remote drone of an eye above my head. That was my eye, but it wasn't my eye. But I saw this huge eye above me and I was like, what the hell was that? I had no idea what that was. Crazy. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe it was just a sign to let me know that I was being watched or looked after because I was going through a hard time, you know, a heartache situation. But so I think because I fought, I always had that. I kind of had a wild, crazy side, and there was nothing refined about anything. You know, refinement came later on in my life, so I kind of was wild, and I was always late, and they were going to make a shirt that said "Where's Erik?" because you know, I would just walk into the airport with like 3 minutes left, walk right through the airport and walk right on the airplane and go, "Hey guys," and they were closing the door, and I would do that all the time. And so, you know, that's nothing to brag about, by the way, but
He revives when he's supposed to.
well, yeah. So, I mean, I always pushed everything to the limit. So I tried to do as much as I possibly could before I had to go get on an airplane. So, like, one time I missed my first flight. So I go, well, shit, I got an hour and 15 minutes. That gives me an hour. I go, Omar, because my friend Omar Buish from Sweden was dropping me off. I go, hey, I got an hour and a half. Let's go hit some balls. He goes, what? I go, let's go to the driving range. It's right up the road. So we went to the driving range and we hit a bucket of golf balls. And then I go, I still got about a half hour. Let's go bowling. So we went across the street and we bowled like three rounds. And then I got a little sandwich and I go, I better head back to the airport. And he was sitting there just going, how did you do that? And I go, it's called time management. Half hour for golf, 25 minutes for bowling, and then I got a sandwich in the last 5 minutes to go. Perfect. So it was things like that. But as far as the spiritual side of stuff, I was talking on Buddha videos. I did an interview for Buddha for Rolled Up, and I was saying that some of the best guys that I've trained are the guys that have their shit together, that aren't out chasing women every night and going out to bars and partying all the time. These guys are showing up to practice sober regularly. And I said a lot of the easiest guys that I can train I said some of them are Christians, but some of them are married. And so, you know, they're not single out chasing women and you know, going out all the time. So I said, those are easier guys to train with. And so somebody misconstrued that. I said, if they're not a Christian, I won't roll with them. And I said, well, they said, is it true you don't roll with people? I go, yeah, because some of these guys are big time partiers and you know, they're getting lap dances regularly. And I don't know what they're pulling off for these people. I mean, you know, you could go to a bar and hang out in a bar. You could go to a haunted house and pick up spiritual energy. You're getting crap on you. And so what happens is it attaches to you. And what I didn't know is I figured it out later that I So anytime I roll with somebody who had an attachment, it was on me. So I went home with nightmares. I had nightmares all the time when I was training and fighting because I would touch so many people. Plus, I was a massage therapist. So I massaged a lot of people. Everyone I put my hands on, I'd pull their crap off them.
Right.
And then also, I was a bartender. You can't tell me that there's not spiritual activity going on in bars. You know, people are getting drunk and whatever. So that's kind of what happened. And I think that was misconstrued and taken the wrong way. So yeah, the answer is yes. I chose not to roll with some people, but I used to roll with everybody because that's what you do. You just roll as much as you can. Whoever wants to roll, just roll. And then later on, I couldn't understand. So I had a haunted house, a haunted apartment. When I got married, my first wife, she's from Australia, and I was living in an apartment, and both of my apartments were super haunted. And so I had a guy who killed himself in my room. His ghost was still in our apartment, and he was messing with me, and he kept calling her name. And when I was gone, he would hide her keys. And she had a bowl of cereal. She puts the cereal bowl down, full of Cheerios. She goes to grab a napkin or something. Comes back and her spoon's gone. She goes, that's weird. She goes to get a spoon. She comes back and her whole bowl of cereal is gone. She finds it later, trapped behind the TV, sideways on the wall, and all of her cereals it went through the wall, and it was in a little pile right next to my bed with no milk, and the milk was gone. So maybe the ghost wanted the milk or something. But the funny thing is, it was hiding her keys. Like, her keys are on the table, and she finds them in a dresser drawer, second drawer down, in the middle of all these clothes. So it was constantly hiding her keys, and they would never disclose that the place was haunted. But my room used to howl in the middle of the night. It was like a suction with air, but it's because I had a portal in my room and I didn't know it. It was in my closet. And so I was having faces appear in my closet on my glass mirror. And I had all these faces appearing, and it was scaring the shit out of me at first. I was trying to watch a movie in my room, and I'm just laying in bed, and I got goosebumps, and I'm scared. I'm like literally feeling scared. So I go, you know what, screw it. So I grabbed a marker and started drawing glasses and mustaches and cigars out of there with smoke. And there was like 5 of them, 5 different faces that I was drawing glasses on. And so people come into my room, they go, hey, what's on your mirror? I go, you don't want to know. I go, I'm just practicing my art. But, I was mocking the thing because it was pissing me off. It was attaching and attacking me all the time. Every night I'd lay in bed and I was scared shitless. It would turn my stereo on in the middle of the night, full force. So it's up to 10, and my stereo would just go off. I'd turn it off, I'd go back to bed, and I'd turn it back on. I'd pull the plug out of the wall and turn it back on. And then it turned an alarm on my oven, which I had no idea there was an alarm on my oven. So I pulled the plug out of my oven, out of the wall, and the fire and the alarm on it went off again. So it was just constantly messing with me. And one time I woke up and it was on my comforter was like wavering like this really fast, like 100 miles an hour. And I said, if you're real, prove it. So my comforter started moving, and then all of a sudden I got choked. And the first time I got choked, I yelled the word Jesus, and then boom, this thing jumped off me. It shot off me. And I jumped up and I'm like, what the hell? That was real. I was getting choked. So the next night I go back to sleep and I'm getting choked again. So I go to say the word Jesus, because my friend said, if you say the word Jesus, they flee, they jump off you. So tell me that's not proof that Jesus is God. So anyways, it's the next thing you know, this thing puts its thumbs in my trachea notch and chokes me. And I went, and I went, Jesus. I said, Jesus. and it jumped off me again. And I jumped up and I started shadowboxing. I got like 2 rounds in with elbows and headbutts. It's really cool.
Are you familiar with whether you want to call them aliens, entities, demons, angels? Are you familiar with when people say they get abducted and they say the name Jesus Christ, they say that these entities flee and they disappear?
That means they're fallen angels. Or so usually like aliens a lot of times could be fallen angels, but there's also a lot of government experimental that they do, the abductions and things, experimental. And they also do implants also. So like there's places where they'll take you. So sometimes they can abduct you physically, and then sometimes they'll grab you astrally. There's 2 ways of abduction. A lot of people don't know that. They pull you out of your body, and then they'll do their stuff to you, whether it's tying you off or implanting you in your head or the back. One of my good friends was getting abducted regularly, and he was from Michigan, from Lansing, and I found out that Lansing was a hotspot for UFO activity because of the base. There's a UFO base in the water there, Lake Michigan, because it's such a big, deep lake. So he was getting abducted regularly. His mom said that he thought it was his friends picking him up at 2 a.m. because of all the bright lights. But she would get frozen, and then they'd come in through. He said they come in through the walls, and then they would work on him. The first time, he said, this little blue guy walked in and put his hands, and he went to yell "mom," and then it just like touched his head, and he was silent, yelling "mom," but nothing was coming out. And they scanned him, and then he said then the abductions happened regularly, and a lot of grays. They also told him that he needed to get into biological engineering, because they were going to help him excel and work on that. And maybe, who knows, maybe he was a gray before. Some people have starseed, they're starseeds, and they have information, or they worked with them, or maybe part of them before. And there's a big controversy. Most Christians say that because of the Bible, they say that reincarnation never existed. And then I talked to another guy, and he said, "Oh, I think it was a demon that lived before that comes in and then tricks you into believing you lived before." I truly believe you have many lives. I don't think coming here one time is enough. There's not enough time to learn everything. And I think you have to learn. Your soul will learn and get older, and it evolves. But again, if reincarnation didn't exist, why does like Kent State and all these other major colleges have programs on reincarnation where they're doing tons of case studies? But 2 of my Christian friends says they don't believe it. They don't believe it at all. They said it's not biblical. And I go, there's also a lot of text that was taken out of the Bible, right? A lot of things were taken out because it was too revealing. Look at the book of Enoch. There's 2 or 3 books of Enoch? There's at least 2. And there's also 2 Enochs that people don't know. There was a good one and a bad one. Enoch built the pyramids. You guys know that?
About the giants.
I didn't know that.
What's that?
I said,
Yeah,
Enoch. About the giants.
Enoch is the one. Well, the giants were created from the spawning of the fallen angels. They said 1/3 of the angels followed Lucifer, or Satan, when he was cast to earth. And when he hit the earth, I think the angels that were cast to earth hit the earth like a meteorite, because they were thumped or blown with his breath out of heaven when they crossed over the threshold, decided to follow him. That's why they found 200 craters that they can't explain. There's no meteorite, there's no volcanic activity under it. They found like 200 craters that they don't know how to explain what they're from, and they think it's from angels hitting the ground,
because they're going straight down the holes. Like when a meteor hits, it leaves an elongated crater, but these are going straight up and down. I know exactly what you're talking about.
And just boom. So that's it. And then there's also like a New World Order thing at the top of a mountain, and they have 200 seats there.
Yeah, Mount Hermon, which is where they supposedly angels came down.
Mount Hermon, yeah, is exactly where they were cast to. And
There's a military base there now.
of course. And the other thing is the fact that they were not supposed to mate with the humans, because they're made of light. We're made of mud or clay. And then the genies or the djinn, they're made from fire. And the genies were messing around with us, giving us the wishes, and sometimes it was good and sometimes it was bad. They would trick you. So that's why they were thumped into another dimension. Same with the fairies. The fairies were thumped into another dimension. A lot of the elemental spirits were thumped into another dimension because they were messing with the humans. Now they're coming out with a lot of movies and stories on the fairies and what they did, and everyone thinks they're bad. They're elemental spirits. Sometimes, I mean, I have had several occasions, because I go outside all the time, but I had things messing with me. I have like a little white thing. I fall asleep and I could see if it's black or white, and this one was white. And it was messing with me all night. It kept landing on me and was like flicking my ear, and sometimes they poke your feet, and so this one just kept, it was all over. So I called my friend. I have a woman that I work with regularly that clears me probably at least once a month. She'll clear me to see, she'll check in to see what's on me or around me, and sometimes I was getting attacked regularly. I used to get attacked every Thursday night for 2 straight years, but I would get attacked all the time. And I always had, in my haunted places, there was always spirits. They opened portals. And then I worked with a guy named Michael Gummerman out of Sedona, and he used to shut all the portals and then send them off. He would bring in all the archangels. So he worked with the archangels, Michael, Gabriel, Uriel, Raphael, through God, through the Holy Spirit, through Christ, and asked them to assign the angels for protection and removal, and to cut all the cords and to pull out all the roots and all the debris. And that was Michael Gummerman. And a lot of times I would get corded. So there was a time when I was training all my fighters, and I don't know who it came from. Well, I kind of probably do, but anyways, I was at Brock's house training Brock Lesnar for his camp, and I did that for 7 years. But I remember waking up. My wife and I were sleeping downstairs, and it looked like a tornado of twine that was sitting like this and hovering in my doorway. And I go, what's that? It looks like twine. It looks like a big spool of twine. And it was like this, like it was nice and big. It was about 7 feet tall, and it was just sitting there. And I didn't know what it was. Have you heard about that?
No, I've never heard anything like that.
It was cording. So what they do is they tie it around your body to slow you down. So if you're doing a lot of spiritual work, they cord you in the middle of the night. I would wake up and see a spool of cord hovering above me. Sometimes it was white, but most of the times it was black. And I would wake up and just see a big spool. It looked like fishing line that's all messed up, just hovering. And that's when they're cording you. They tie you off. And it got to the point where I couldn't even lift my legs up. So I sparred one day, and I couldn't even lift my leg above my waist. I go, what the hell is going on? And then I couldn't punch. And then I remember it felt like I was getting choked. And in the middle of the night, I kept going like this. Like I go, there's something around my neck. And I kept doing this, pulling this thing down. And I would put my finger, and I could actually like open it and then breathe correctly. So they tied my neck off. They tied my shoulders off, and they tied my hips, and they tied my ankles off. So I went to a seminar in Texas, and my friend, his name is Dr. Patrick Price, and he died and came back. So he has the ability of vision. He could see actually inside of people. And so he looked right at me. He goes, hey, I need to talk to you. So he waited till lunch, and he goes, listen, I need to do some work on you. He goes, you're all corded off. He goes, you have cording everywhere. He goes, you've been doing a lot of spiritual work. And it was funny because I was like, yeah, I actually have been. There's a lot of people that were sick. I was praying. I worked for a chapel that was called St. Martin de Porres Ministries, and I worked with this exorcist lady. She's a healer and an exorcist. So we dealt with people who had cancer. We had a little baby that hadn't cried. It was 2 years old. She blessed him and started crying. We had tons of different excursions and situations, but most of the people that were there because they were possessed. So the first rule is when you walk in, don't look at anyone in the eyes. Look them at the tip of their nose, but don't look in their eye. And because I have a huge habit of looking into not person's eyes. I look into one eye and then I go inside. And I've always done that as a little kid. That's how I could figure people out right away. Usually, I don't look at their eyes. I look at one eye and then I go inside of them. And then I thought that was normal. I didn't know. Then I was in 4th grade and I creeped these girls out. They go, your eyes are creepy. And I go, thanks. And they go, we're going to call you Ghost from now on. And I go, yeah, I was in 4th grade. And I go, well, I feel sorry, not for you or you, but I feel sorry for you in the middle. And she goes, why? And I go, because your grandma died. And she goes, what? I go, she's standing right behind you. And they go, they take off running. But that was real. Her grandma was standing behind her. So, I mean, I didn't, and that's what freaked people out because I had the ability. Like yesterday, it was weird. I freaked myself out yesterday. One of my students, his purple belt, was gone. He's at practice 5 days a week, 6 days a week, and he hadn't been there for 2 weeks. I go, where's Chris? So Chris comes in. He's got a little bit of a tan. He's Asian. And he comes in. I go, Chris, where have you been? I go, hold on. I go, hey, you guys, Chris has been slacking. Go after him. In sparring, go after him because his win's not what it should be because he was on the beach in the Bahamas drinking pina coladas with his mom. And then he goes, you're right. And I go, what? He goes, yeah, I was in the Bahamas. I just got back from the Bahamas. I was with my mom. And I was like, what the hell? But that's I kept hearing Bahamas. So I just spouted out. And I was right.
I think that some people are just more gifted to the, seeing the other side or having a spiritual gift or being sensitive to those type of things. And obviously
sensitive. Yeah, I think sensitive is one. And then the other is hyper aware. I know when I was a little kid, I'd sit in class and I'd listen to the teacher talk and I could tell you every person walking by the room just out of peripheral vision. I would name whoever would walk by. It's weird. And then I go, okay, Billy's over here picking his nose. This guy's writing a love letter to his girlfriend. Jill's over there putting her gum underneath the desk. So it was really weird. I was super hyper aware and I thought everyone was like that. I didn't know that people were zombies. A lot of people are zombies.
I wanted to get back to a little story you told us, some of the wrestlers outside of the dollar store, about how you basically served as an exorcist after a seminar. And I know Michael loved this because Mike's been trying to get exorcist guests on the show.
Well, so I worked at St. Martin de Porres Ministries, not on purpose. My girlfriend got possessed. I was down in Mexico on Valentine's Day, and I was down there selling baby doll jackets and dresses. And I thought I had a sweet deal lined up to start selling them in Mexico. I'd buy them in Venice. And as for extra money, I would sell baby doll dresses, wholesale. So I had dresses and jackets and t-shirts or button-up shirts. They're pretty cool. It's all batik, the batik stuff. Anyways, I go down there and I just stayed at a hotel with my girlfriend at the time. And she went into one room and she goes, I don't like this room. I don't feel comfortable. So they put us in another room, and the other room we went in was red. It was weird. And it felt like electrically charged, but I was tired because I drove. So I went to bed, I went to sleep, and she was attacked all night long. And in the morning she was tattered. She goes, I've been attacked all night long. she goes, you were sleeping like a baby, and I was getting attacked all night long. They wouldn't leave me alone. And so she said, can you put me to sleep? I go, you sure? She goes, yeah. I go, all right. So I put my hand on her head and I brought my hand over her eyes. She passed out. She left, obviously must have left her body when I did that. And she had 14 demons jump in her. So when she woke up, she was crying. I was shaking her, trying to wake her up. She was convulsing. And I thought she was having a seizure. So I was shaking her, trying to wake her up. And next thing you know, she wouldn't wake up. So I started slapping her a little bit to wake her up. I'm shaking her. And then I started throwing elbows out of nowhere. I couldn't even stop because I was in fight mode. So I was elbowing her. No, I'm kidding. I didn't elbow. And so I was shaking her like this, and I give her one of these and one of these. I go, wake up, wake up, wake up. She finally woke up and just started crying, like wouldn't stop crying. And I go, what's wrong? And she jumped out of bed and she grabbed my ears and she goes, she's inside of me. And I was like, oh shit. Yeah, who? And so anyways, when I go, let's get out of here, let's go. She goes, okay. She walks outside, she starts looking around like she's never seen outside before. And then she gets in her car and she doesn't even know, she had one of those electric seatbelts that go up and over your body, and she didn't even know, and it went around her head and she just started freaking out. And I go, you know what, I'm gonna drive. Just sit down. And she didn't know how the seatbelt worked, but it was her car. And then I pulled out she had a notebook there for directions, you write. So I said, do me a favor, write your name. And she scribbled some other woman's name. It wasn't even her handwriting. It was different handwriting.
That's terrifying. What are you thinking at this moment?
I said, do it again. Sign your name. Write your name. Who are you? She wrote it again. She wrote it like 4 times, 5 times. Like, it wasn't even her handwriting. And I go, oh, shit. So now I'm like, okay. Now I'm nervous. Not scared, but kind of like, either this girl's a really great actress or I'm in trouble. So I'm driving back. I get back over the line. I'm in San Diego. I stopped at a church. We walk into the church and I said, listen, pastor, father, or whoever it was a minister or whatever. I said, hey, can you help me? I said, I was in Mexico with my girlfriend. I think she picked up an evil spirit. And she starts laughing. She goes, he can't help us. He's lost his faith a long time ago. Starts laughing. And he goes, leave. We left. So we stop at another church. And I go, excuse me, sir, I need to talk to you. I'm having an emergency situation. I think my girlfriend picked up some evil spirits or spirit, and can you help us? And she goes, she just looked at him. She goes, he can't help us. He loves little kids. And I was like, oh my gosh, leave. So went to another church. It was a Catholic church. And I asked the priest, I said, can I ask you something? I said, do you think if someone gets possessed that these demons are always present when the person is conscious? Are they always are they always there? So they're alternate ego. He said, yes. And I said, I disagree. I think they're hiding. I think they hide. And then they come out at certain times. They come out and they hide. And he said, I don't believe that. And I go, okay, well, you can't help me then. So he said, if she's possessed, then she would be constantly in that possessed state. And I said, I disagree with you. So anyways, she picked up 14 demons. I ended up going to a chapel in LA called St. Martin de Porres Ministries. And the lady was a friend of her family's, and she was the only exorcist in all of California. Aside from a man who was in San Diego that I had to look up and find from the Catholic priest, my friend was a Jesuit priest, and they know where all the exorcists are. And so I ended up finding out that there was a lady in LA, and it just so happened she was a friend of her family's. And then I heard the story when she was in New York. Her name was Sister Josie DiCioso. She's Filipina. And at the time she was 60, but she looked like she was about 40. So at the time she went to New York service, and the Archbishop of New York said, Sister Josie, would you come up and bless me in front of a congregation of 500 people? 1,000 people with 500 priests present. It was like a huge ordeal. So she walks up there and blesses the priest or the Archbishop, and he falls over backwards. She's slated with the Holy Spirit. And then immediately she goes, children, rise up. And all the children came to the aisles, and she was blessing every child, and everyone's falling over left and right. They go boom, boom, boom. They took pictures of her, and there was a ball of light the size of a soccer ball, a white ball of light, whiter than light. It was whiter than the sun, and super bright light. And it was either on her hand, it was on their head, or it was behind her. That's the Holy Spirit present. They got several pictures of the Holy Spirit present when she's blessing everybody, and her hand vibrates. So she blessed, she put the cross, and then boop, 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 and then bang, Holy Spirit would slay, go right through them, boom, next. So the kids are falling like this. She gets to the end of the aisle, and the lady goes, please bless my mom. She was not till the end, because her mom was in a wheelchair. So she gets to the end, and there's a lady that was blind, and she had a seeing eye dog, and she blessed the lady, and the lady's vision was restored, and her dog fell over backwards, unconscious. She slayed the dog. And then she blessed the lady who asked if she could bless her mom, and then she blessed her mom in the wheelchair, and she said, okay, she's fine. She can get up. And she goes, she can't. She's been in a wheelchair for like 20 years. She blessed her, and she goes, no, you're fine. Your legs work. Get up. She goes, get up. I'm commanding you to get up now. She goes, you're fine. Get up. And the lady stood up and was the first one in the food line getting food with her tray. That's how I heard. That's what I heard about this lady, Sister Josie. Next thing you know, I'm trying to carry this girl into the chapel, and her feet and her hands stop on the door. And she goes, I'm not going in there. They're going to kill me. They're going to kill me. I'm not going in there. And it was upstairs. And I was like, so I finally put her over my shoulder and walked up the stairs, and I introduced myself, and I said, sorry to meet you under these circumstances, but I'm in trouble. And she goes, Rochelle. That's what she said. She goes, go in the other room. And I said, you know her? And she said, yes, I know her family. She goes, she put a rosary on her, and she put her in the other room, and she said, sit in front of the altar with the two angels and the cross. And she goes, start praying. So she went in there, and she said, what happened? I had to say what happened. So you got to figure, I mean, I've been driving for 3 hours because we're stopping at these churches, and all of a sudden I finally get to LA at like 10:30 at night, just tattered. And then all of a sudden she goes, you're going to have to stay awake for 24 hours and pray over her. And her parents, we need to call her parents. That's funny. Her dad's like, what color is he? She goes, he's white. He goes, that's why. Because her dad was Filipino. Mom and dad were Filipino. Filipino. Yeah, so I was like, that's not why. That's not why. So anyways, it's because I put my hand on her head and she left. And I didn't know I had the power to do that. I didn't know I had the power to put my hand on someone's head and make them leave. You know, if I did, I would have done that more when I was fighting. Imagine what happened to the guy. His soul left his body.
TKO, soul knockout.
But anyways, so what happened from there is she came out of the chapel. She was sitting there with me, and I grabbed a bottle of holy water and I sprayed it down her throat and called in St. Michael, because Sister Josie already prayed over, called in Pater Filio Spiritus Sanctus, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Called Father, Son, and Holy Spirit in, and then I asked for Michael's presence, and he came in like a bolt of lightning, just huge and blue, just big blue light. And when I sprayed the holy water down her throat, I said the St. Michael prayer, and she was choking, and then she couldn't repeat the prayer. She couldn't say Spirit or couldn't say, what would she say? Holy Experiment. And then she couldn't say Jesus. She would say, start stuttering, and then start laughing, and then crying. And that's how I knew I was in trouble. Then all of a sudden, this lady comes running out of the back room, and she goes, "Oh my God, the candles just blew out." And sister goes, "Well, the candles never blow out." And then she started laughing. She goes, "I blew the candles out." But it wasn't her talking. It was the witch that was in her. She had a witch with 14, I don't know if they're entities or demons or what. But she called them devils. So, like, maybe because she was Asian, they call them devils, which are demons. But she goes, she has 14 devils in her. That's what they told her. And the one that was hiding was a witch. So I got her name, and she goes, "Do you know her name?" And I said, "Yes." She told me. She wrote it down. She goes, "Show me." So I had to show her the name, and then that's how you get a hold of them, and that's how you command them out. You got to get their name first. So it took 40 days. We had to pray for 40 days to weaken them, and then they had to be cast out 40 days later. So she had to quit her job, so I had to drive there every night and train for a fight, my first fight. That's when Brandon Lee passed away. I was trying to get ready for a fight, and I'm going to a chapel. I'm working as a bartender at night, and then after work, I'm driving out there to stay there and sleep on the floor. I had to stay awake for 24 hours. So I actually learned the entire rosary. I learned the Holy Chaplet, divine, what's it called? All the mysteries. I learned the entire rosary by heart in 24 hours. I could recite it all by memory. In fact, when I went to a church in the West Coast, they go, "We have a guest and he's going to lead the rosary." And I go, "I am?" And I led the rosary, and they go, "You're not going to read?" I go, "No, I know it by memory." So I memorized the whole thing, the five revolutions with the whole thing. And it was pretty crazy. So it was actually the mysteries, all the mysteries. Are you guys Catholic?
Not necessarily. I was raised Catholic.
I was too.
I was raised Catholic, yeah.
So the sorrowful mystery, the rosary, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
I think the rosary, if you pray the rosary today, I still think it's powerful. They said, this lady was saying that they saw all these soldiers praying the rosary, and they had a ring of fire around them. And then a lot of the Satanists that can see say a lot of times they can see who has fire around them and who doesn't. And the fire is the protection of prayer from the Holy Spirit. It's like fire, but it's around you. And they know if someone's prayed over, like if you pray over kids, they can see that the kids are prayed over, protected. And then they can also see the adults who pray, who regularly pray and have the Holy Spirit present. It's a fire.
I don't think it's a coincidence. And you kind of said it yourself a little bit too. Most of the best fighters are strictly religious and have, strong spiritual, foundation.
Well, maybe because they were warriors in the past. That's another thing. I mean, I definitely feel like I've bludgeoned some people with. Yeah, I definitely like when I'm fighting. It feels normal, but I feel like a spirit come out. I feel like the spirit. Even when I throw axes and I shoot, when I shoot bow and arrow, I took bow and arrow practice. I took archery in college, and I was like my best shot. I was the best shot in class. And they go, "Why are you so accurate?" I go, "I have no idea." And did I tell you the story of when I went to Jason Momoa's house?
No.
So I saw Jason Momoa at Sprouts. I was on my way to do a seminar up at Cold Steel, and I saw him on the way, and I said, "Hi, Jason, my name's Erik Paulson. I'm friends with Chad Stahelski from 8711. And Chad asked if I could help choreograph your next movie. So you have a movie that you were supposed to do that got pushed." This is before he became Aquaman. I said, so it got pushed, and we're going to shoot it later. But I was the guy that was supposed to train you in all the martial art, do all the martial arts for you. And he goes, what's your name? And I told him, and he goes, so he looks me up. And I get to my car. I start driving off in my car. And I drive by him. I go, nice to meet you. And he goes, stop. And he looks me up. And he goes, hey, I have a house up in Topanga Canyon up on the hill. And you just follow the trail all the way up there. He's got a compound, and he's got like motor homes here and there, and he's got wolves, and he's got he built a roller skating ramp, and then he shoots archery, throws axes, and throws knives. And he said, do you shoot? And I go, yeah. So he pulled out a bow, and he strung it up, and he goes, shoot the hog. So first shot, I go like this. You know, I have never shot this bow before. So first shot, I let it go, and it goes right over its back. And he goes, looks like we're eating potatoes and vegetables tonight. And I go, hold on. Second shot, boom, right in the heart. And he goes, wow. He's pretty good. He goes, how about the deer behind that? I go, up higher? And he goes, yeah. I go, all right. Boom, right in the heart. He goes, whoa. He goes, who are you? And I go, I don't know yet. And then so he goes, you throw axes? And I go, I've never thrown axes. And he goes, all right, let me teach you the pace. It's 8 paces. So he's got this huge wood target. This thing is 10 feet tall and probably that thick. And he's got a body drawn on it with the head and the shoulders and everything. So he goes, all right, every 8 pace you throw an axe. So I walk back 8 paces. And I go like this, and I go, he goes, right in the head. I throw the axe, first shot right in the head. Second shot, I go 8 paces back, boom, left shoulder. 8 paces back, boom, right shoulder. 8 paces back, boom, right in the stomach. 8 paces back, boom, right in the crotch. I was going to do one more 8 pace back. That would have been 6 times 8 paces back. And everyone goes, stop, no, don't throw. They go, that if you miss, then all those other throws that you did won't count. And he goes, who are you? It was funny, but it's weird. I felt an Indian and a Viking spirit coming out of me. Both Indian and Viking. So that was odd. Yeah, that was weird. And I'd never thrown an axe. It's really crazy. So we hit it off. I was supposed to train him for a movie. He did that movie, The Braven. Do you see The Braven?
No, I haven't seen it.
So he was a special forces guy and ended up there's like a drug dealer, and it was a lumberjack movie. And I said, there's not really martial art. Like, you don't really need to know martial arts for this movie. You just, if you're a special forces guy, you're just, you know, you're going to just try to kill him and shoot him and stab him. So he goes, well, I need you to come up to Canada for 6 months. And I go, I have a school. I can't leave. I can't leave for 6 months. So that was kind of it. And then he became Aquaman. He's still friends with all my friends, but I got him sponsored by Cold Steel. They gave him a bunch of axes and a samurai sword. And then they got mad because he started his own axe company. And the weird thing is, I went to buy a lapidary. This guy had lapidary equipment. I went to buy lapidary equipment from this guy. And then 2 doors down, I looked and there was like this big block of wood. And I go, oh, that's perfect for axe throwing. And the guy goes, do you throw? And I go, yeah, I've thrown. And he goes, hey, look at my axe. He shows me his axe. I go, you make this? And he goes, yeah. I go, that's amazing. He goes, yeah, my partner's Jason Momoa. And I go, oh, that's weird. Anyways, I looked at the guy. I go, you have the presence of Archangel Raphael on you. You're a minister, huh? And he goes, yeah. How'd you know? I go, I don't know. I feel God's presence with me right now. And then he was making motorcycles and axes. Pretty cool. It's kind of weird how you meet people.
For real.
But anyways, that exorcism took 2 years for her to get rid of all of these things because they come back. So you kick one out and they come back with 7 more. She got the spirit of the witch out of her, transferred to another girl that was scared. This girl's a visionary, and she was sitting next to her, and she goes, "Oh my God, the witch is out." And it jumped into the next girl. And then she had to go through 40 days. It's actually a novena. It's called a novena, 40-day novena.
Wow.
Yeah.
I dated a girl who was very spiritually sensitive, and if we would go to a concert or like a big gathering, she would say that she could see things like jumping around from people at like a concert, or
especially now, especially today. There's demons. They have tons of video footage of demons bouncing on people, jumping all over. Isn't that crazy?
It is. And I mean, maybe not to people like us or people like you that have been used to seeing that type of thing, but it's almost like the veil's thinning a little bit now.
It sure is. And also when the moon, the eclipse happened, people are seeing demon faces. The demons are actually showing their faces. You know that?
Yeah, the demon face syndrome that the news was talking about. That was hilarious.
Yeah, it's true. And you know what? A lot of people don't know, but they have demons in them.
100%.
All that. Yeah, it's true. Voices. A lot of people have voices, alter egos, anger issues. Another thing is they have cravings that they didn't have before. Porn addiction. What else? Meat. Sometimes they suddenly eat meat. This lady was pregnant and she was craving coal. She had an entity that wanted to eat coal all the time.
Crazy.
Yeah, there's tons of case studies that you could read about. And there's tons of case studies on reincarnation also. Little kids with birthmarks, and then they remember their past lives.
Past life regression, yeah, for sure. I was just thinking too, with the entities, you could basically consider like you said, the cravings. It made me think of like when people get parasites, and the parasite makes them want to, eat a certain bad food that will make the parasite reproduce more. It's like that.
Parasites are microscopic demons.
That's basically what I was getting at. That like they're a manifestation of.
All you got to do is look at their face under a microscope.
They are malevolent.
And tell me that that's not a demon.
Right. So
yeah.
It could be that on a spiritual level, and then that even goes to like a technological level, like with like AI bots trying to message you and like mess up your software or like hack your thing or get you to like click on something bad. It's like the demon trying to be invited in.
I had a famous actor's son come to my gym, and I went to lunch with them, and I looked at him and I go, "Boy, the Masons want you. They want you to join them." He goes, he kind of like comes back. I go, "They want you big time." And I said, "But it's deeper than that. It's on the spiritual level. The dark ones are after you." And he stood back and he goes, "How do you know?" And I said, "I think it's from your dad. It's your dad's connection, definitely." And then he goes, "Well, I want to show you my phone." He goes, "Look who called me this morning." And it was 666. How do you get a call from 666? And he goes, I said, "Did you get a message?" He goes, "Yeah, you want to hear it?" And I go, "I don't know, do I?" And he goes, "It's scary." And it was a deep growling, screeching voice. And it was talking, it sounded metallic. Usually a metallic sounding voice is spirit sound. They sound metallic. They speak through your TV, or like one time I was training Ken Shamrock, and I went down to San Diego. I came back, and then I had to teach at night, and I looked at my TV. I played, my friend gave me this Indian chant music to clear the energy in my room, and it did the opposite.
Oh no.
Well, because sometimes in the Indian chant music, they put spells in the music. Do you know that?
No, but it wouldn't surprise me because they have
They sneak them in.
hundreds of gods and stuff. I'm sure some of those were malevolent entities.
They sneak them in. So anyways, I played this thing, and I looked at my TV, and the TV screen was blue. All of a sudden, I look at my TV screen, and I go, my TV's going to talk to me. And then all of a sudden it goes, "Erik, I need to speak to you." And I go, "What the hell?" And instead of letting it talk, I got scared and I turned my TV off. I'm like, screw that. But again, that was the same time period when that 4-foot eye appeared above my head. Yeah, I've had plenty of that stuff. I didn't know I was clairaudient.
That you could pick up on hearing things.
Yeah. So one time when I got blessed from this guy, he said, you have 4 gifts you're not using to your highest degree. And I go, what are those? And he goes, number 1, you could see. Number 2, you can hear. Number 3, you're a teacher. Number 4, you're a healer. And he goes, what do you do? And I go, I teach martial arts. And he goes, not to your fullest potential. And then he goes, what else do you do? I go, I'm a healer. I'm a massage therapist. And I work on people who are spiritually challenged. And he said, not to the highest level you can. You have more power than you know. And then he said, well, that would explain why these other 2 gifts are a big part of that. And I go, what's that? He goes, you can see and you can hear. And I was like, really? And he goes, yeah, but not to your highest level. And I could never understood why I would hear conversations going on around me all the time and no one else could hear them. I just thought it was coming through the wall or somebody had a radio on or something. And ever since I was little, I've always had that happen. And then the other thing, like I said, the whole thing with even the kid yesterday with the Bahamas, same thing. Like I'll hear it and then I'll say it and then it's true. But I think it's your higher self. And I said, I'd like to connect with my higher self. They go, you already are connected. Your higher self is already part of who you are. And I was like, okay. So I asked again, same thing. It's all part of you. So if you can connect to your higher self, that's the self that's right between you and God. If you can connect with that self, which is it's you in an all-time seeing and knowing time, then I think things are a lot more powerful. But I do a Merkaba meditation. I do an ice bath and a Merkaba meditation every day. So my wife bought me an ice bath because my other ice bath popped. And I think the ice bath she bought me was for a little kid. I was like this.
Small size.
My knees were in my chest, and I still did my Merkaba meditation. Have you heard of the Merkaba?
Yeah, I have.
Yep.
Light body.
Yeah, it really works. And here's the thing: you don't want to do you definitely don't want to do the transcendental meditation because you leave your body and the entities jump in you.
Yep, you can open up.
Patrick Price worked on a girl. He said she had the most demons of anyone, entities, and she was a yogi and does transcendental meditation. And then he goes, you want to see something weird? And I go, yeah. He goes, watch this. And he pulled a snake out of her. Her jaw was dislocated and she was arching. And he pulled like a 11-foot snake out of her. Snake spirit. Unreal. And then another time he was working on a guy, and the guy he used to be a whale. And the whale came out and told him, and he goes, what's your name? He goes, Montauk. And he started like breathing like a whale and spouting. And apparently he was killed, but he got killed to save his wife and his child. And then this guy also had another because he does something called cellular release, where he pulls all of your battle wounds from fighting out of your body, all your past trauma. And he said that's when the past life stuff comes out. I also know a lady, her name is Dr. Modi. She has many books out. Look her up. She has some great books. She has some of the best informational books out, and you find it on Amazon, and her name is Dr. Modi. She's Indian, and she's a hypnotherapist, and she never believed in all that stuff until she started hypnotizing people, and then they started talking. And then she said no, she would find the demons in them, and then they would reveal that the angels would come in to work on her. She uses the Holy Spirit, and then the angels would step in, and then they would change the demon back from a demon into the angel. They go, look at the spark of light in you. Look at your spark. And they go, what's that white spark? And they go, that's God in you. Look at it, focus on it. And then boom, they would transform back into the angel. And then she said, when they would transform the angel, the demon back into the angel that it would reveal all of its time that it spent with God. And then those are her stories that she would tell. And she said, I was a hypnotherapist looking to heal people and treat people for mental illness. And I found out the most Most everyone, the reason that they were having mental illness was caused from a past life trauma. And she goes, I never believed in past lives. Edgar Casey said he never believed in past lives. He was a full-on Christian, walked around with a Bible in his hand. An angel appeared to him in the woods in Kentucky and said, what would you like to do? And he goes, I wish I could heal kids. So they granted him the ability to heal, and he became, they call him the sleeping prophet. And he healed thousands and thousands of people. Right before he'd go to sleep, he would channel a doctor and diagnose you holistically what your problem was. And because he was a Christian, he didn't believe in past lives. And then they said, this person is having issues with their breathing because they drowned in their past life and they need to relive their death again. So he would hypnotize people. They go back into their life, how they died, and then they would die that death, and he'd talk them through it, and boom, their breathing problems would disappear.
He never took money either.
No, yeah, that's a true prophet. That's a true healer right there.
Definitely.
But he's not charging a left testicle for for healing you. That's the true ones right there.
I was going to bring up a funny coincidence about this episode. It's timing. I know you're a big Archangel Michael guy, and that's why I bought the little pendant at your gym. That one stood out to me. And my co-host here, Mike, just got an Archangel Michael tattoo. So I know he's probably feeling it right now and wanting to bring it up.
Let me see it. That's really cool.
It's still very
Michael. So someone asked me why I was spiritual or why I believed in God and so much. And I said, well, if you have never had a face-to-face encounter with the devil or with a demon or demons, then you don't believe in anything. You don't believe it. But when you get the shit scared out of you, and even to this day, I sleep with a nightlight. To this day, it's not that I'm afraid of the dark. It's just nice when I'm sleeping, because a lot of times when I'm sleeping, I'm like, and then I go like this, and I peek, and then I peek again, because half the time I peek, there's something floating. I see stuff all the time, and I have an Earth Pulse machine from Holographic Health. If you guys don't have one, get one. What it does is it puts in a pulse. It goes duk, 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 and it's a scatter frequency, so nothing can manifest in your room. So I used to have spirits manifest all the time and land on me and stuff. And now what it does is when they come into my room, it turns them into little gnats or flies, or it looks like a bunch of little flies. And that's how I know that a spirit's present, is I see a bunch of flies or a spider. They can manifest as a spider. So now I got spiders manifesting. I kept seeing the spider coming down from my ceiling, and it had like 12 legs, super long legs, and it hit the bed. It was slowly walking over the pillow, and I cracked it really hard, and it disappeared, and then it appeared again, and that was going, and I was like, man, I don't want to wake up with that thing on me.
No.
And then another time I had a squid. I had a black squid appear, and then the last was like a spiky black ball with spikes everywhere.
Can't tell me that wasn't a fucking demon.
Dude, that was fucked up.
I like how he was doing the blessing at the end.
Right? If it would have stopped working, bro,
that would have been crazy. I don't like that either way, though.
Dude, I thought for sure.
Once we logged out and came back in.
Because I was the host, so I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's something, a glitch on my end. You know what I mean? That's something like we've done. This is going to be like 40, 42 or something like that, right?
Dude, he was preaching too much shit. Erik.
It's never happened.
Erik is a real one, bro.
It's never happened.
I told you.
There's so much, dude. There's so
Warrior of the Light. The Warrior of the Light.
There's so much.
Dude, he's targeted. He's targeted. He dropped too much knowledge. Spiritual knowledge. He's talking about the Masons. He's talking about what he could see, and he could heal people. They don't want this type of stuff getting out.
Okay, no. I don't necessarily agree with everything he said. That doesn't, I mean, I do agree with a lot of what he said, but I don't agree with all of what he said. However, let's just assume that everything that he said is fucking how it is. That's fucking crazy, dude. Crazy. He's got so many stories.
I know, man.
When he said that there was a witch in her, I was like, oh, they're fucking real, dude.
Yeah.
You know?
Fuck yeah.
So,
he's an Archangel Michael guy for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. That's so weird. I know what he was talking about the fucking. I was just watching something about that. How, typically when meteors come in, they leave like, you know what I mean, like a dugout. These are going like 90 degrees, like boom, straight down.
Right. They found stuff like that everywhere.
That's
everywhere.
crazy.
Everywhere. Everywhere.
You had me for a second. What is that? Not again on the same word, dude. I want him to go into detail about if he believes he was in UFC 1, would he have won?
Yeah. I wonder if he thinks he could have took Hoist back then.
Yeah, I want to be like, if you would have entered, if you were allowed, do you think you had what it takes to win? Yeah, we definitely got to finish it. It's too open-ended. Part 2 coming up next week. Until then, stay away from pedophiles.